What if we told you a top official just testified under oath against Kamala Harris and revealed something shocking? What if his revelations could expose a massive immigration scandal? What if this testimony proves that the Biden administration's approach to border security isn't just failing, but actively putting Americans at risk? Today we'll talk about Aaron Heitke, a former U.S. Border Patrol chief who recently took the stand in front of Congress, and the bombshell he dropped about Kamala Harris's handling of illegal immigration as Border Czar of the Biden administration. In this video, we'll break down Heitke's shocking testimony, where he accuses the administration of covering up a flood of criminals and dangerous individuals crossing the southern border. From rising crime rates to the fentanyl epidemic, Heitke's revelations suggest we might be looking at one of the biggest immigration scandals in U.S. history. Stick around because this is a story you won't hear anywhere else. So who is this guy named Aaron Heitke? Well, he's not some random goofball for sure. He was a former U.S. Customs and Border Protection official, and not just any official. He's got 25 years of service under his belt, rising to the role of Chief Patrol Agent of the San Diego sector. This sector is one of the busiest along the U.S.-Mexico border, making it ground zero for many critical border security operations. Heitke's career spanned multiple administrations. It gave him a front-row seat to the evolving landscape of U.S. immigration policies. He managed operations through some of the most challenging periods in recent history, including changes in border enforcement tactics and an influx of migrants from Central and South America. Under the Biden-Harris administration, Heitke's role became even more vital. As the U.S. experienced a significant increase in migrant crossings, particularly in 2021 and 2022, Heitke was responsible for managing these surges at the San Diego border. His task wasn't just about managing the volume of migrants, he also had to navigate the administration's policies, which, according to Heitke, were focused more on optics than on addressing the underlying issues. This, as we'll see, led to some troubling orders from higher-ups. Heitke's testimony before Congress has brought to light the pressures he faced to keep the true scope of the crisis out of the public eye, which ultimately led to his decision to speak out after retiring. His revelations now position him at the center of a national debate on the Biden administration's handling of immigration. What revelations, you might ask? There's a lot of them. First, there's the massive increase in special interest aliens, or SIAs. One of Aaron Heitke's most shocking claims was the staggering rise in apprehensions of what the government classifies as SIAs, individuals with potential ties to terrorism. According to Heitke, under previous administrations, the San Diego sector averaged around 10 to 15 SIA arrests per year. However, that number skyrocketed to over 100 arrests in 2022 alone and continued to rise throughout 2023. The numbers are beyond concerning. They indicate a substantial and unacknowledged national security threat. The administration has been aware of these figures, but instead of taking steps to address the rise in SIAs, Heitke claims they were more concerned with something far less important. This leads us to the next major revelation. Heitke revealed that he was given specific orders to move migrants out of sight from the media to avoid bad optics. According to him, at times there were as many as 2,000 migrants gathered between border fences waiting to be processed. However, instead of addressing the problem head-on or alerting the public, the Biden-Harris administration pressured Heitke to relocate these individuals to areas where the media wouldn't notice them. It's clear that managing public perception took precedence over addressing the root cause of the issue. For Heitke, this was a tipping point. He described how this order to hide the situation from the public left border agents like him struggling to manage the overwhelming numbers of migrants, all while pretending everything was under control. But perhaps the most alarming part of Heitke's testimony is his claim that he was ordered to withhold information about arrests and security failures. In his congressional testimony, Heitke revealed that the administration was not just downplaying the border crisis, but actively suppressing critical details about it. The public was being kept in the dark, while security concerns escalated behind closed doors. Heitke noted that despite repeatedly warning the administration about the influx of SIAs and the rising security threats, his requests for additional resources and transparency were ignored. Border agents were left to manage an unrelenting flow of migrants, some with ties to terrorism, without the support they desperately needed. But if you think that's the end of it, nope, not even close. Heitke also exposed a critical and dangerous aspect of the current border situation: the flood of criminals entering the U.S. According to his testimony, thousands of undocumented individuals with serious criminal records, including those convicted of homicide, sexual assault, and drug smuggling, have been released into U.S. communities with little to no oversight. The numbers are staggering. Heitke revealed that among those released were more than 13,000 individuals convicted of homicide. These aren't just petty criminals. These are dangerous individuals now unmonitored and potentially posing a significant threat to public safety. And it doesn't end there. Heitke emphasized that due to the administration's shifting priorities, border agents were instructed to focus more on processing and releasing migrants rather than strictly enforcing border security. What this did was it left agents overwhelmed and unable to adequately monitor or track the flow of convicted criminals entering the country. Heitke's testimony highlights the real-world implications of these policies, suggesting that communities across the U.S. are now at risk due to this lack of enforcement. For Heitke, the issue isn't just the numbers, it's the negligence. The fact that the administration knew about these threats and still chose to release these individuals, often with court dates years away, showcases a disturbing disregard for the safety of U.S. citizens. The border crisis is no longer just a political debate. Heitke's testimony frames it as a public safety disaster unfolding in real time. Heitke also touched on the growing fentanyl crisis. According to him, the San Diego sector is responsible for intercepting a staggering 80–90% of the nation's fentanyl. Fentanyl smuggling isn't just a drug issue, it's a national security threat. The sheer volume of fentanyl coming through the southern border poses a serious danger to American communities. Even a small quantity of the drug can result in mass casualties, and with such large amounts being smuggled in, the stakes couldn't be higher. Heitke's testimony indicates that this ongoing crisis has been downplayed by the administration, with resources diverted away from drug enforcement to prioritize processing migrants. This failure to address the problem leaves U.S. communities vulnerable to the deadly consequences of this drug epidemic. And again, the administration, according to Heitke, knew about all this and didn't act. Instead, they allegedly chose to withhold critical information about fentanyl smuggling from the public, all in an effort to create a media narrative that the border was under control. The combination of SIAs, dangerous criminals, and fentanyl smuggling, as outlined by Heitke, points to a border in serious crisis. And at the center of this crisis is the Biden administration's appointed Border Czar. Kamala Harris was appointed as the administration's lead on immigration, a role that quickly placed her at the center of the ongoing border crisis. As the Border Czar, she was tasked with addressing the root causes of migration, improving border security, and overseeing the federal response. This put her in a crucial leadership position, making her responsible for handling both the operational and political challenges related to the U.S.-Mexico border. From the outset, Harris maintained that the border was secure. In various public statements, she emphasized the administration's efforts to create a more humane immigration system, defending its policies as effective and necessary. She downplayed concerns raised by critics and dismissed their warnings about the crisis, often labeling them as politically motivated fearmongers. However, Heitke's testimony directly challenges this narrative. The administration's approach to downplaying the border crisis wasn't limited to controlling the media. Harris's public appearances often focused on framing immigration as a humanitarian issue, sidestepping concerns about security. Critics were labeled as alarmists, and any mention of dangerous individuals crossing the border was dismissed as overblown. This narrative helped the administration deflect criticism, presenting the crisis as being under control even as the situation worsened. However, Heitke's testimony has disrupted this carefully constructed image, and now the political fallout is inevitable. So, why does this testimony matter? Aaron Heitke's revelations go far beyond a simple disagreement over immigration policies. His testimony brings serious accusations of negligence, deception, and security risks to the forefront. Heitke's statements directly contradict the administration's narrative, particularly Kamala Harris's portrayal of the border as secure. The disconnect between the public assurances and the reality Heitke exposed is now a central issue. The crux of Heitke's testimony lies in the implications for national security. It's not just about migrants crossing the border. It's about the administration knowingly downplaying and ignoring the influx of criminals, drug smugglers, and individuals with ties to terrorism. The fentanyl smuggling issue alone is already a huge concern, as the drug's deadly impact continues to escalate across the U.S. This synthetic opioid, up to 50 times more potent than heroin, has become a primary driver of overdose deaths in the country. In 2022 alone, over 107,000 people died from drug overdoses, with fentanyl responsible for 2/3 of those deaths. The problem is that it takes only a tiny amount of fentanyl, about 2 milligrams, roughly the size of a few grains of salt, to be lethal. This makes it incredibly dangerous not just for those using it, but for anyone who might come into contact with it, including law enforcement officers handling drug seizures. Fentanyl has spread rapidly across the U.S., often mixed with other drugs like heroin, cocaine, or counterfeit pills, which unsuspecting users consume. In many cases, users don't even know they're taking fentanyl. Its widespread availability has turned it into the most significant public health crisis facing the country right now. Between 2019 and 2021, fentanyl-related deaths among teens surged by 182%. Beyond overdose deaths, fentanyl-related crimes have also surged. Law enforcement agencies report increased trafficking, often tied to cartels exploiting gaps in border control. The drug's potency has made it a lucrative business for traffickers, even as it wreaks havoc on American communities. With such a powerful substance flooding the streets, the stakes are higher than ever. But going back to the topic, Kamala Harris's already slim chances of winning the presidency just got even slimmer. Kamala Harris's political trajectory has been a topic of debate for some time now, but recent developments have made her already difficult path to the presidency even more challenging. Despite holding the position of vice president, which traditionally provides a strong platform for a presidential run, Harris's approval ratings have been consistently low. The gap between her public persona and her ability to rally support from key voting blocs has become increasingly clear. Even members of her own party are starting to express doubts. Democrat insiders, once solidly behind Harris, have started questioning her leadership skills and overall electability. Mainstream media outlets, which have historically leaned left, are now discussing Harris's weaknesses with surprising candor. CNN, for instance, recently aired segments discussing the vice president's challenges, acknowledging that her public approval has plummeted and suggesting that her political future looks grim. This skepticism isn't limited to the media or political pundits. There's growing anxiety within Democratic circles about Harris's ability to win against Trump. But that's a topic for another day. And that's it for this video. We've exposed some shocking truths about Kamala Harris's role in the border crisis based on Aaron Heitke's explosive testimony. From the surge of dangerous criminals and individuals with ties to terrorism entering the U.S. to the administration's failure to act on the fentanyl epidemic, it's clear that what's happening at the border is far from under control. But what do you think about Heitke's claims? How could this change the political landscape, if at all? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video insightful, make sure to like it and share with your friends and family to help spread awareness. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we appreciate your continued support.